All right, and Diane, thank you. And of course, since Parkland, Nicholas Cruz, the shooter in the Parkland massacre back on February 14th, there were numerous red flags, and people said there could have been ways to prevent it. And Dr. Lisa Pescara Kovac from the University of Toledo, really doing a lot of work, doctor, in targeting and educating those who may be at risk to harm others, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what is your focus now? What have you found kind of ramping up the research in the wake of Parkland just over 2 months ago?
I think we've known for quite some time that there's sort of a constellation of factors that play a role into these types of acts. And one of the misconceptions is that it's strictly mental illness or gun control. And what we're finding is it's the biology of the individual, it's the psychology of the individual, and it's the social climate as well. So we take what's called a biopsychosocial approach to this.
In the case of Nicholas Cruz, there were many red flags.
Absolutely.
He had been suspended numerous times. He had been expelled from school. Yes. The sheriff's department there had been warned. The FBI. Yeah. He was on the FBI's radar. So in terms of a researcher, a doctor, at what point can you deem somebody dangerous, and then what's the next step after you do that?
Well, what needs to happen, I think, across the board, and we're seeing this in a lot of schools across the United States, everyone should be on board with having a behavioral intervention team. So what we do is typically to train a school district, we'll go in and we'll talk to the teachers and the students in terms of what might be some of those warning signs. And then subsequently they know who to report those to, and they bring that to their behavioral intervention team, which consists of typically a school resource officer, a school administrator, counselor, school psychologist, coming together to sort of assess those facts, look at them from, in a holistic fashion, and then decide what's the best case management plan for that individual.
What's the threshold when there's a problem at the base level and then the problem escalates? At what point do you take action and bring everybody together?
Right, and we tend to err on the side of caution, and it's not profiling by any means. What we're trying to do is, we know so much. Like you said, you hear all these things about Nicholas Cruz. I can tell you before every incident what that person will look like, and not physically, but from the sort of perspective in terms of life events, the psychology of it, that whole piece of it. And we take everything seriously, and it's nice when you can say, you know what, this is just a good student, he happened to have a bad day, it was a single incident, and we're good. But then when we start to see patterns of behaviors, and for us, probably the biggest warning sign is when they had been so angry, which is Cruz and many of them, so angry for such a long time, and then suddenly that sort of de-escalates. And I think the misconception with them as well is, let's just expel, let's suspend. And what happens, just as in this case and many others, they will come back to that school on school grounds many times with a weapon.
Okay, Dr. Kovac, thanks you so much for coming in tonight. We do appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again down the road, I'm sure, as we try to work on what is an incredibly vital issue to our children. Thanks.